Dr. Jonah Rain sat alone in his glass dome on Elistra 6, a quiet planet full of glowing plants, tall crystal trees, and strange, beautiful animals. The sky was always a soft purple, and two suns shone during the day. He had lived here for almost a year, working as a xenobiologist, a scientist who studies alien life. He liked the peace. No noise, no traffic, no crowds, just nature. Every day he took notes, watched animals, and sent reports back to Earth. But there was one species he couldn't understand. The Ailari. The Ailari were tall, feathered beings with wings that shimmered like sunlight on water. They walked on two legs, had long arms, and large, intelligent eyes. They lived far away from Jonah's dome in floating cities made of light and sound. They rarely came close, and when they did, they stayed silent. But Jonah was curious. The Boar. Ailari were peaceful, polite, and very smart. They communicated using songs and glowing feathers. Jonah had spent months recording their sounds, trying to understand their language. It was hard. Their songs changed with mood, light, and rhythm. One day, as Jonah was checking his outdoor sensors, he saw something unusual, a single Ailari flying toward his dome. He froze. Ailari never came alone. The figure landed softly outside, folding her wings. She stood tall and still, her feathers glowing a soft blue. She tilted her head, watching Jonah with calm eyes. Then she sang, softly, a high, smooth sound like wind in a flute. Jonah slowly raised his translator device, but it gave no clear answer. He lowered it again. "Hello," he said, unsure what else to do. The Ailari female walked closer, still singing. Her voice was gentle, but there was something firm in it too, like she had come with a purpose. She stopped just a few feet away and touched her chest lightly, saying one word. "Miari." Jonah blinked. She was giving him her name. "I'm Jonah," he replied, touching his own chest. Miari's feathers shimmered in response, a flicker of green and gold. She studied his face closely, then turned and looked around the area. After a few seconds, she walked past him and into the dome, as if she had been there before. Jonah was stunned. Ailari didn't do this. They were private, proud, and very careful about rules. He followed her inside. She stood in the center of his workroom looking at the books, the data screens, the maps. Then she turned back to him and sang again, a new tune. This one was slower, deeper, with strange pauses between notes. He didn't understand the meaning, but something in it felt emotional. She wasn't just curious. She had come here for him. That evening, Jonah sent a short message to the orbiting science station. "Unusual contact. Solo Ailari female entered outpost voluntarily. No aggression. We'll observe further." He didn't mention the song. He didn't mention the way she watched him. The next day, Miari returned, and the day after that. She came every evening, always during the soft twilight hour when the sky turned gold and silver. She brought no tools, no translator, no gifts, just her voice. Over time, Jonah noticed patterns in her songs. She sang higher when he smiled, slower when he was tired. One evening, after he burned his hand on a hot container, she sang a low, humming tune that seemed to ease the pain. He began to record every visit. His logs were filled with notes like, "Miari's tone matched human emotional response. Possible emotional mirroring. Is she studying me or choosing me?" The question made him nervous. The Ailari were known to have complex social rituals, especially during something called Keshinar, a season that some translations called Seeking Union. It happened once every 6 Earth years, and most Ailari returned to their hidden cities during that time. But Miari had come out. To him. One night, she brought something with her, a smooth white stone with a blue mark on it. She placed it gently on the table in front of Jonah, then stepped back and sang a soft note. Jonah stared at it. He didn't know the meaning, but the gesture was clear. It was a gift. He picked it up carefully, turned it in his hand, and looked at her. "Why me?" he asked quietly. Miari didn't speak. Instead, she stepped closer, tilted her head, and gently touched her wing to his arm. Her feathers were soft and warm. Jonah didn't move. He should have pushed her away. He should have reported everything immediately. But he didn't. Because somehow, deep in his heart, he felt the same pull, and he couldn't explain why. The next morning, Jonah woke up earlier than usual. He hadn't slept much. His mind kept going back to the white stone Mayari had given him. It now sat on the shelf beside his old coffee mug, like a strange symbol from a dream. He walked to the window and looked out over the quiet land of Elistra 6. The twin suns were just rising, casting a soft golden light over the glowing trees. He didn't expect Mayari to come so soon. She usually visited at dusk, but there she was, already standing outside. She waited patiently, feathers shimmering blue and silver. Jonah stepped out, trying to look calm, though his heart was beating faster. "Mayari," he said with a small smile. She gave a soft trill in response. Her head tilted as she looked at him closely, studying his expression. Jonah had questions, too many questions, but asking them didn't help. His translator still didn't understand Elari songs fully. It gave broken guesses like union, choice, heart, melody, learn. None of it made complete sense. He gestured for her to sit on the large flat stone near his outpost. She did, wings folded neatly behind her. He sat across from her. "I need to understand what you want," Jonah said gently. "Why are you here?" Mayari looked around, then began to sing again. This time her song was slower, more careful. Jonah listened closely, recording it on his small device. As she sang, her feathers changed color. Blue to green, green to gold, gold to a soft orange. He didn't know what the colors meant, but they felt warm, emotional, like the feeling of an old memory or a goodbye you didn't want to say. She stopped singing and reached into the small bag she carried. From it, she took out a clear crystal sphere and held it out to him. Jonah leaned forward and accepted it carefully. Inside the sphere was a tiny carving, two feathered shapes circling each other, almost touching, almost one. "Mayari," he said, softly, "is this about mating?" She didn't answer with words. Instead, she gave a soft sound, somewhere between a whisper and a sigh. Her feathers flickered orange again. Jonah sat back, confused, surprised, and a little nervous. This couldn't be what it looked like. Humans and Elari were different in so many ways. He was here to study life, not bond with it. And yet, everything about Mayari's actions felt intentional, like a message in a language he hadn't fully learned. He stood up and walked a few steps away, thinking, the humans in orbit wouldn't like this. The scientists believed in non-interference. That meant no deep contact, no mixing cultures, no emotional ties. Jonah had signed those rules when he came here, but now those rules felt like chains. He turned back to Mayari. She was still sitting on the stone, watching him quietly. No pressure, no anger, just waiting. "Mayari," he said again slowly, "I'm not like you." She stood, walked closer, and touched her chest lightly. Then she touched his. Her eyes were calm and full of meaning. Not the same. Her eyes seemed to say, but not enemies either, not strangers. That night, Jonah sent another message to the Science Council. "Elari female continues to visit. Communication improving, but behavior suggests emotional intent. Requesting permission for cultural study extension." He left out the word mating. He didn't want to start panic, but he knew the council would ask questions. They always did. He turned off the terminal and walked outside. Mayari was still there, standing quietly under the glowing trees. She looked up as he approached, then offered him another song, softer, more personal. He didn't understand the words, but somehow, he felt like he understood the feeling. The next few days passed in a strange rhythm. Mayari visited every morning and evening. She brought gifts from her people, feathers woven into shapes, glowing fruit from high trees, polished stones that sang when you touched them. Jonah began to recognize the patterns in her songs. He still couldn't translate them fully, but he could feel when she was happy, worried, or trying to comfort him. He taught her simple human words: friend, learn, together. She repeated them in her melodic voice, slowly shaping human sounds. And then one evening, something changed. A message came from orbit. The Science Council had been monitoring Jonah's reports. They had questions. Too many questions. Dr. Rains, your interaction with the Alari female appears to go beyond observational study. Please clarify the nature of your relationship. Cultural contamination must be avoided. Jonah stared at the message, feeling a chill run down his spine. Outside, Miari was singing again, and now he had to choose: follow the rules or follow the music. Jonah sat in front of his screen for a long time, reading the message again and again. Clarify the nature of your relationship. It felt cold, like someone had taken a warm moment and placed it under a microscope. Outside, Miari's song still floated through the air, soft and calm. It echoed between the glowing trees, gentle like the evening wind. Jonah stepped out of the dome. Miari turned toward him at once. Her feathers shimmered gold and green. Colors Jonah had learned meant joy and curiosity. She reached out her hand, offering him a small, round fruit. He took it silently and smiled, though his mind was heavy. Miari, he said carefully, I need to ask you something. Important. She tilted her head. The glow of her feathers faded to a calm blue. She was listening. He took out his small tablet and showed her the message from the Science Council. She looked at it for a long moment, then looked back at him. I must tell them what we are, he said slowly, pointing between them. Miari's feathers changed again, deep orange, then purple. Jonah had only seen that color once when she had heard thunder and looked nervous. Purple meant warning. She placed her hand gently on the screen, then looked into Jonah's eyes. Her voice came out soft, low, like a slow breeze through leaves. She said a single word: danger. Jonah blinked. You mean, it's dangerous if they know? He asked. She didn't speak again, but she stepped closer and placed both hands over his heart, then touched her own chest. Jonah understood. She was saying this bond was real, not just curiosity, not just friendship, but it wasn't safe. That night, Jonah watched recordings of her early visits. He listened to the songs she had sung, the slow changes in tone, the way her feathers had brightened over time. At first, it had been simple, but now it was something more. He wasn't just a scientist anymore, he had become part of the story. He remembered something from his studies. The Alari were private, yes, but during Keshanar, their most sacred season, they followed instinct more than law. Old songs spoke of resonance and a rare bond between minds and emotions. It happened once in a lifetime, and now it was happening with him. The next day, Jonah didn't send a reply to the Science Council. Instead, he walked with Miari deep into the forest. She led him to a clearing he had never seen before. It was full of glowing plants and tall, clear crystals that hummed softly when the wind blew through them. In the center, there was a round platform made of white stone. Miari stepped onto it and began to sing. Jonah stood back, watching in awe. Her song was different this time, higher, more powerful. The crystals echoed her voice, and the light around them changed with every note. She looked at him, then raised her arms and invited him to join her. He hesitated. He was not Alari. He didn't know the rules, but he stepped forward anyway. She took his hand gently and placed it over one of the crystals. The hum turned warmer. Her feathers glowed gold again. Then, without speaking, she began to sing a soft melody and nodded for him to respond. Jonah didn't know what to do, so he did the only thing he could. He hummed. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't in her language, but it was his voice, full of honest feeling. To his surprise, the crystal responded. The sound grew richer, deeper. Miari's eyes sparkled with something that looked very close to joy. They sang together, his hum, her song. Different, yet somehow connected. Later, as they sat by the crystal breathing slowly, Jonah finally spoke. "This bond between us, I didn't expect it." Mayari looked at him, then pointed toward the sky and sang a short phrase. Jonah played it back through the translator. The machine struggled, but the meaning came through. Not expected, not wrong. He smiled. He wasn't sure what would happen next. The Science Council would notice his silence. They might send someone. They might order him back to Earth. But sitting here next to Mayari, hearing the crystals sing in response to their voices, he felt something rare. Peace. Connection. Truth. That night, Jonah added a private line to his logbook. "This is no longer a simple observation. Something ancient has awakened between us. She chose me, and I'm beginning to understand why." He closed the log and looked at the crystal Mayari had left for him. It glowed softly in the dark, like a quiet promise. Jonah sat in front of his screen for a long time, reading the message again and again. "Clarify the nature of your relationship." It felt cold, like someone had taken a warm moment and placed it under a microscope. Outside, Mayari's song still floated through the air, soft and calm. It echoed between the glowing trees, gentle like the evening wind. Jonah stepped out of the dome. Mayari turned toward him at once. Her feathers shimmered gold and green, colors Jonah had learned meant joy and curiosity. She reached out her hand, offering him a small, round fruit. He took it silently and smiled, though his mind was heavy. "Mayari," he said carefully, "I need to ask you something. Important." She tilted her head. The glow of her feathers faded to a calm blue. She was listening. He took out his small tablet and showed her the message from the Science Council. She looked at it for a long moment, then looked back at him. "I must tell them what we are," he said slowly, pointing between them. Mayari's feathers changed again, deep orange, then purple. Jonah had only seen that color once when she had heard thunder and looked nervous. Purple meant warning. She placed her hand gently on the screen, then looked into Jonah's eyes. Her voice came out soft, low, like a slow breeze through leaves. She said a single word, "Danger." Jonah blinked. "You mean, it's dangerous if they know?" he asked. She didn't speak again, but she stepped closer and placed both hands over his heart, then touched her own chest. Jonah understood. She was saying this bond was real, not just curiosity, not just friendship. But it wasn't safe. That night, Jonah watched recordings of her early visits. He listened to the songs she had sung, the slow changes in tone, the way her feathers had brightened over time. At first, it had been simple, but now it was something more. He wasn't just a scientist anymore, he had become part of the story. He remembered something from his studies. The Aelari were private, yes, but during Keshanar, their most sacred season, they followed instinct more than law. Old songs spoke of resonance and a rare bond between minds and emotions. It happened once in a lifetime, and now it was happening with him. The next day, Jonah didn't send a reply to the Science Council. Instead, he walked with Mayari deep into the forest. She led him to a clearing he had never seen before. It was full of glowing plants and tall, clear crystals that hummed softly when the wind blew through them. In the center, there was a round platform made of white stone. Mayari stepped onto it and began to sing. Jonah stood back, watching in awe. Her song was different this time, higher, more powerful. The crystals echoed her voice, and the light around them changed with every note. She looked at him, then raised her arms and invited him to join her. He hesitated. He was not Aelari. He didn't know the rules, but he stepped forward anyway. She took his hand gently and placed it over one of the crystals. The hum turned warmer. Her feathers glowed gold again. Then, without speaking, she began to sing a soft melody and nodded for him to respond. Jonah didn't know what to do, so he did the only thing he could. He hummed. It wasn't perfect, It wasn't in her language, but it was his voice, full of honest feeling. To his surprise, the crystal responded. The sound grew richer, deeper. Miari's eyes sparkled with something that looked very close to joy. They sang together, his hum, her song. Different, yet somehow connected. Later, as they sat by the crystal breathing slowly, Jonah finally spoke. This bond between us, I didn't expect it. Miari looked at him, then pointed toward the sky and sang a short phrase. Jonah played it back through the translator. The machine struggled, but the meaning came through. Not expected, not wrong. He smiled. He wasn't sure what would happen next. The Science Council would notice his silence. They might send someone. They might order him back to Earth. But sitting here next to Miari, hearing the crystals sing in response to their voices, he felt something rare. Peace. Connection. Truth. That night, Jonah added a private line to his logbook. This is no longer a simple observation. Something ancient has awakened between us. She chose me, and I'm beginning to understand why. He closed the log and looked at the crystal Miari had left for him. It glowed softly in the dark, like a quiet promise. The clearing was quiet, except for the soft hum of the crystal pillars. Jonah stood beside Miari on the white stone platform, the woven band on his wrist still glowing with gentle warmth. The night air was calm, but tension pulled at his chest. High, above them, a human shuttle moved through the sky like a silver arrow. It wouldn't land yet. It would circle, scan, observe. That's what the council always did first. Watch from above, then act. Jonah glanced at Miari. She looked calm, but focused. Her feathers were a soft blue and green, like flowing water. He could tell she was preparing something. Something old, something sacred. She stepped forward, placed her hands on one of the tall crystals and began to sing. The sound was different this time. Lower, deeper, full of strength. The crystal pulsed with light. Then another one joined in, vibrating with the same song, as if it recognized her voice. Jonah stepped back and watched in awe as all the crystals around the clearing began to light up one by one. It was like standing in the middle of a living symphony. "What is this, Miari?" he whispered. She turned and gave him a look that said, "Trust me," and so he did. Inside the shuttle, orbiting above, Captain Reeve frowned at her screen. "Sir," one of the technicians said, "we're picking up strange readings from the southern forest. Some kind of harmonic energy. It's not natural." Another voice added, "It's centered near Dr. Jonah Raines's outpost." Reeve narrowed her eyes. "Is the target secure?" "Negative. His signal's been off for over 6 hours. He's not at the outpost." She leaned forward. "Then where is he?" Back on the ground, Jonah could feel the vibration through his feet now. It wasn't just sound, it was power. The crystals were alive in a way he hadn't seen before. Miari moved to the center of the platform. She looked at Jonah and reached out her hand. He took it without hesitation. She began a softer song this time, gentle, like a lullaby from a forgotten world. Jonah didn't know the words, but he could feel them. Something about memory, connection, and choosing to stand together. The crystals responded again. And then something strange happened. The band on Jonah's wrist began to glow brighter. The air around him shimmered, and for a moment he heard, not just music, but meaning, not through the translator, directly in his mind. He heard her. "You heard me?" Finally, Jonah blinked. "Miari?" She smiled. Her voice came again. Not out, loud, but inside him, like an echo of thought wrapped in light. "This is the heart of the forest, the place of bonds. When our songs join, minds can meet." Jonah's heart raced. He had spent months trying to understand her, using machines, devices, codes. But now, with no technology, only a woven band, and her song, he could feel what she meant. You chose me, he said aloud. Yes, not just for the season, for longer, for as long as your soul sings back. Above, inside the shuttle, alarms began to sound. Captain, energy spike detected. It's not Ilari technology. It's older, prehistoric even. But it's reacting to a human life form. Captain Reeves stood up. Prepare to land, I want boots on the ground. Now. Back in the clearing, Mayari stopped singing. The crystals slowly dimmed, but the bond between them remained. Jonah could still feel her presence in his mind. Warm, steady. But then the sky lit up. A loud hum roared through the air as the human shuttle passed overhead, heading toward the clearing. Mayari looked up, feathers darkening slightly. Her calm expression wavered. They're coming, Jonah said. They'll try to separate us. They will not understand. I won't let them take me or you. Mayari stepped forward and placed something in Jonah's hand. It was a small crystal, shaped like a teardrop. It glowed softly. This holds the memory of this night. If they take you, you will still remember. Jonah's throat tightened. You think they'll take me away? They fear what they do not know, but they will not break this bond, Jonah. You are in my song now. Always. He closed his hand around the crystal. I'll fight for this, Mayari. I swear it. She nodded. Then the sound of landing gear and mechanical whirs echoed through the trees. The humans had arrived. In the shadows, soldiers moved quietly, weapons lowered but ready. Captain Reeves stepped out first, scanning the area. She saw the glow from the crystals, saw Jonah and Mayari standing together, hands still joined. She paused. What is this? She whispered. Jonah looked up. Something you were never meant to stop, he said. Reeve raised an eyebrow. You're under protocol violation, Dr. Rains. This isn't just study anymore. You've crossed a line. Jonah nodded. I know, but some lines are worth crossing. He stepped forward, not hiding the glowing band on his wrist. This is more than just science. This is truth, and I won't let you erase it. Captain Reeves said nothing. The wind blew gently through the forest, and for a moment the crystals hummed again, soft and steady. A second voice joined the first. Mayari's. Captain Reeves stood at the edge of the glowing forest, her eyes fixed on Jonah and Mayari. Behind her, the landing crew waited. Some held scanning devices, others stood with equipment ready, unsure of what they had just walked into. None of them had expected this. The crystals hummed again, their light soft and steady. Jonah stood tall, the glowing band on his wrist pulsing in rhythm with the crystal's light. Mayari stood beside him, calm and silent, her feathers now glowing silver blue. Color Jonah had never seen before. Captain Reeve finally broke the silence. Dr. Rains, step away from the alien. Jonah shook his head. She has a name. Her name is Mayari, and I'm not stepping away. Reeve frowned. You know the law. You were here for observation, not this. Jonah's voice was steady. What's between us wasn't planned, but it's real. I didn't force it, I didn't expect it. But it happened. And I'm not going to deny it just to fit into a rule book written by people who've never set foot here. One of the officers whispered to Reeve, Should we separate them? Reeve held up a hand. No, not yet. She stepped forward slowly, lowering her voice. You're not thinking clearly, Jonah. Whatever this is, whatever you believe it is, it's affected your judgment. We've seen it before, bonds formed under alien influence, emotional imprinting, mental suggestion. Jonah took a breath. You think I'm brainwashed? Reeve didn't answer directly. We'll run tests. We'll confirm if it's genuine, if it's safe. Mayari stepped forward then. Her feathers darkened slightly. A low sound began to hum from the crystals again, like a warning. Jonah raised his hand. She doesn't want trouble. Reeve raised an eyebrow. Then she can prove it. Let her leave with her people. You come with us. We'll speak later. In orbit. Safely. Jonah turned to Mayari. He didn't need the translator now. Her expression told him everything. They will take you. They will not let you return. Jonah looked back at Reeve. And what if I refuse? Her answer was quiet. Then I'll be forced to take you. The crystals pulsed again. Suddenly, a low vibration spread across the clearing. The soldiers looked around nervously. Some reached for their weapons. Mayari, what's happening? Jonah whispered. The forest hears them. It fears for you. The glow around the central crystal brightened, and then a second tone rang through the clearing, a stronger hum. Jonah felt it in his bones. This was not just sound, it was a call. Reeve looked up, uneasy. What is that? Jonah spoke without turning. This is the place of bonds. The Elari don't take this lightly, they're listening now. Watching. He turned to Mayari. Is your people near? She nodded. Slowly. They come, not to harm, to witness. Minutes passed in silence. Then, from the deeper woods, figures began to appear, tall and slender like Mayari, their feathers glowing in shades of violet, green, and gold. They moved quietly, gracefully like part of the forest. The soldiers stiffened. Reeve held up her hand again. Hold your fire. The Elari stopped at the edge of the clearing, forming a gentle half-circle around the platform. One stepped forward, older, with feathers streaked with silver. He looked at Jonah, then at Mayari, then at the crystal. He began to sing. Jonah felt something shift in the air, like the trees themselves were listening. Mayari responded with her own soft song. The band on Jonah's wrist grew warm again. The elder Elari placed a hand on the crystal. Then he looked at Jonah and spoke, slowly, clearly. You are seen. You are accepted. Reeve stepped forward, clearly confused. What does that mean? Jonah translated. He means, they recognize the bond. Reeve shook her head. We can't approve this. We don't even understand it. The elder Elari looked at her, then sang another note. It echoed through the crystals, and this time even Reeve seemed to pause. Mayari stepped beside Jonah and spoke softly. They do not need human approval. They need only truth. Jonah turned back to Reeve. You came to protect humanity's rules, but you found something bigger. We didn't plan for this, but it's real. You can't scan it or measure it. You just have to believe it. Reeve stood quiet. Then she gave a small sigh. I'll report this to the council. They'll want answers, but I'll tell them what I saw, not just data. The truth. Jonah nodded. That's all I ask. She looked at the circle of Elari, then back at Jonah. Choose carefully, Jonah. If you stay, Earth may not wait for you. Jonah looked at Mayari. I know. As the shuttle left the forest, the crystals slowly dimmed again. Jonah stood with Mayari, hand in hand, surrounded by her people. He had made his choice, not between worlds, but between fear and faith, and he had chosen to stay, where the songs could still be heard. Weeks passed since the humans had returned to orbit. The clearing had grown quiet again, but not empty. The crystals still stood tall, and their soft glow continued, especially when Jonah and Mayari stepped near. Jonah had not returned to the outpost. He had sent one last message to Earth. I've found something beautiful, something worth staying for. Don't try to retrieve me. I'm where I'm meant to be. After that, silence. Mayari's people accepted Jonah slowly, with quiet eyes and careful steps. They didn't speak much at first, but their songs told stories. And Jonah was learning to listen, not with machines, but with patience, feeling, and heart. Each day, he understood a little more. One cool morning, Jonah walked with Mayari through the crystal woods. The leaves above shimmered like glass, and the path glowed faintly beneath their feet. Mayari carried a small basket made of soft vines. Inside were glowing seeds. They stopped at the edge of a new clearing. This place is empty, Jonah said. It waits, Mayari replied. She knelt and placed the seeds into the soil. Then she sang a short melody, gentle, rising like a question. The ground answered with a low hum. "They grow only where bonds have been formed," she said through the translator. "This will be our space now." Jonah sat beside her, placing his hand over hers. He had never thought of Illustra 6 as home, but now he couldn't imagine leaving. Later that night they returned to the great stone platform, the heart of the forest. Jonah sat in silence as the elders gathered. They had come not to test him but to celebrate. The mating season had ended, but something deeper had taken its place, a lifelong union. The elder with silver feathers stepped forward. He held a crystal pendant shaped like a leaf. It was not bright or large, but simple and full of memory. He placed it gently around Jonah's neck. "You chose her," the elder said slowly, "and in doing so you chose us. Your voice may sound different, but your song is one of ours now." Jonah bowed his head. "I will honor that." Far above, Earth received Jonah's message. The council argued. Some said he had gone native. Others said he was lost to Aelari influence, but not all were against him. One young researcher stood in a meeting and said, "Maybe we shouldn't pull him back. Maybe we should listen instead." Slowly, new plans were made. Not for invasion or removal, but for peace. If Jonah's bond with Mayari was real, it could open a new kind of relationship between Earth and the Aelari. Not based on power, but on trust. Time moved differently on Illustra 6. The days were long, the nights calm. Jonah learned to live like the Aelari, close to nature, guided by song, not machines. He helped plant the seed trees. He listened to the stories of stars sung by elders. He even began to hum the melodies Mayari taught him. Soft, careful sounds that carried meaning without words. And each time he sang, the forest glowed a little brighter. One afternoon, Jonah stood alone near the crystal pillar where he first met Mayari. The wind was light, and the platform warm beneath his feet. He closed his eyes. He could hear the forest, the rustle of leaves, the hum of stones, and deeper than all of that, a memory, her voice, the first time she had sung to him. He smiled. She had come to him during her mating season, yes. But what had grown between them was not just a seasonal bond. It was something rare, something sacred, something eternal. That evening, Mayari joined him again. She placed her hand over his heart, and he did the same. The band around his wrist still glowed gently. "You stayed," she said. "I couldn't leave," Jonah replied. "I'm a part of this place now. A part of you." She nodded. Feathers, brightening like moonlight. They sang together. No translator, no wires, just voice and heart. The crystals around them responded, sending waves of soft light across the clearing. For the first time, Jonah sang not just as a human, but as one, truly connected. And the forest sang back. Far away in orbit, another human team listened through quiet channels. The recording came through. Jonah's voice joined with something alien and beautiful. They didn't speak. They only listened. And for once, they didn't try to control it. They just let it echo. Final words. Jonah was once a man of science, sent to observe. But in the deep forest of Illustra 6, he found more than data. He found connection. He found a voice he never knew he had, and he found a love that crossed stars. She came to him in her mating season, and he never pushed her away, because he knew some bonds are meant to last forever.